the trees, the fruit, the branches, the roots. I mean, I've been saying for over 5 years now in videos that, you know, God is so consistent in the Old Testament, in the New Testament, always using trees, branches, fruit, how you will know them. And where did it all begin? With a tree. Which, you know, does make you wonder, because I believe before the original sin, Adam and Eve could see the angels. I believe they could. So I wonder if the tree was not really a tree. Maybe. But it's just interesting that then God in the Old Testament and the New goes on to try to teach everyone that it's all about the tree. It all started because of people not listening to God about the tree. And then God has to start over, and let's begin at the beginning. Where is it rooted? What is it producing? What are the branches? Are they weak? Are they brittle? Then talks about the seeds. If a seed is thrown on the ground, it may sprout, but it will quickly die because it's not in soil. You know, where is it planted? What garden? I mean, it's amazing. God is so amazing that way. Why am I bringing this up? Well, because it's about, that's what it's all about, is because I always say, you know, the minute God said, you have this whole garden of trees that, you know, you can go to, but don't take from this one. And he didn't say it was all bad. It was good and evil. But he didn't want them taking from anything that had some evil in it. What did they do? The minute God said that, they had to go getting all up on it, you know. And then men, even today, stoop, because men are, you know, some men just, you know, they still want to see, you know, women as less than. No. See, before the original sin, God saw them as equal. We don't need to confuse that and then go on to be as ridiculous as the left and lump it into that women can do everything men can. Clearly not. But as far as equal in, you know, you shouldn't be suppressing women. And then Jesus comes and showed that. And because stupid men, that are many pastors, priests, but they all, again, you want to know what poisonous tree they took from? They all took from this poisonous tree. See, this is the reason it was so important to God that you understand about the branches and the trees and the fruits and where it's rooted, okay? And be careful what you take from that. And what happened over time, even with the Protestant Reformation, is you had, you know, people thinking, well, the Catholic Church was right about some things. Very few things. Very few things, okay? They are also the people that started the nonsense with life begins at conception. Again, they go back to when David is talking to God and praising God because God knew the hairs on his head, or Jeremiah, when Jeremiah is saying, you wove my inner parts. These were sanctified men. These were specific men, kings or prophets that God picked. But it, again, even saying that stuff never says you're alive, because it's only God's breath blown into the nostrils. But of course, because everybody gets all political, they have to turn that into the abortion debate, which was really just a way of the serpent that was slithering on the tree to lead everybody astray, because they turned it into a political issue. But if you just remove abortion, like pretend it never existed, then you would really be on the right page with God when it comes to, no, I blow your breath into the nostrils and you become a living creature. But because everybody took from this poisonous tree, then everybody has a piece of the poison. You see what I'm saying? So then when they all have a piece of the poison, the fruit they'll produce, some of it'll be good, some of it'll be bad, but in the end, nobody listening to God. Nobody listening. I wanted to clear something up, because I said the other day, just in case it confused people, that, you know, I was talking about Orsini, because all the popes, they come from like a handful of families, all the same lineage. And Orsini is a big one. And the Orsini family has said that they go back to Emperor Augustus. Augustus was the emperor during Jesus's young life. It was Caesar who was the emperor, obviously, when Jesus was crucified. But they were a noble family, okay? They were a Roman noble family, so, you know, it's like they would have had to have known. I mean, the Roman noble families, everybody, see, the confusion comes is that at one time there was a Roman Republic, and then there was the Roman Empire. And so America likes to say that they take a lot of their ideas from the Roman Republic. Yeah, I say that's not a good idea in my opinion, because it really just was part of the Roman Empire. But that said, I'm not against the Republic, don't get me wrong. But what people should understand, okay, the Roman Empire under Augustus did not give equal rights to women compared to men. Women were considered citizens but had limited public and political roles. They could not vote or hold office. Augustus's reign focused on reinforcing traditional family roles, emphasizing women's chastity, marriage, and motherhood. His laws, such as the Lex Papal Poppies, rewarded women who were married and bore children while punishing adultery and childlessness. So when you have leaders that do that kind of stuff, it's like, what do you do for women that can't have children? Then they're just they're useless to our empire. Is that what it is? I mean, I'm not for the craziness of the left at all, okay? But again, then what happens is the pendulum swings all the way far right and gets into crazy town too. But I don't. Again, I don't think a lot of these things can be fixed until God intervenes. And will he? In his way, of course he will. Do I think that God is for the traditional family? I do, but I don't think that he wanted women to be seen as less than. And quite frankly, I think that he's because women have been treated that way. Again, use sound reason here. We're not talking about going to the crazy left land, but you go to the crazy right land and God's not happy there either, no matter how much they think God is. No, he's not. But it's, Jesus showed in his actions, which is most important, how I at no time showed that women, he showed his entire ministry that women and men were the same. Not physically, obviously they can do things differently. We all know that. Let's not go to crazy land again, where it's men and women's sports and this no. But just as far as if the Holy Spirit is in a woman, then no church should be telling women that they need to be silent. Yet you have Protestant, you have many different churches of Christianity today that believe this, instead of seeking, again, God's wisdom and saying, God, why is it that, Jesus showed his behavior one way to women, and then Paul came along, and Paul writes that women need to shh in church. And it's like simple. All of a sudden, God just like kind of reveals it. Well, where was Paul? Where was Paul when he wrote that book? Because there's the two books that have been called into question, and it doesn't mean it's Corinthians and Timothy. It doesn't mean, and I think there's another one, but it doesn't mean you throw those books out, okay? Because they would never have changed the whole book, just a couple of lines. Like, that's just common sense. I'm like, whoa, yeah, that does make sense, because he was under the Roman Empire. His scribe was part of the Roman Empire. So when it doesn't align with Jesus, how is it all these men in these churches couldn't get it? Well, because it's why I said they want to stay in their sin. They don't want to behave the way God wanted them to behave as equal before the sin. They want to stay in their original sin.